All right, we're going to take a look at another way to manipulate or exploit our utilization of the Munter hitch. So we've gone through a bunch of different things from one-way Munters to adding friction on the fly. Our preference right now is still the Super Munter, so if you haven't seen that video, check that out. It allows us on the fly to be able to add friction or take friction away. This is an option that probably would more or less replace the Munter 1.5 that we had. So when having to do something quickly, this is definitely easier and faster and definitely effective for adding friction when you know you need that friction. So if I'm going to be rappelling out and I know for a fact that the Munter is pretty good with my normal body weight, but now I'm wearing extra kit, it's in the winter, I've got a backpack on, whatever that case may be. Or I'm doing a two-person lower, regardless whether I'm rappelling or I'm lowering a person or a two-person load. This is how, when we know we're going to need extra friction, we're going to do it. So if we look at a regular Munter here, looks good to me. And we can use some of Attaway's research. If you haven't read Attaway's paper on the capstan equation, how to be able to figure out the amount of friction that's in there, definitely do that, and that'll kind of help guide you also. So in this mode, I know that I'm going to need friction. So instead of tying extra wraps and doing things like this, basically all we do is add a second carabiner. So that'll come through, in this case for a lower, onto this anchor point, and it's going to go right in through my entire Munter hitch, just like that. So what you're going to find is with this added friction that we just added, it's almost like adding a second carabiner. Black Diamond did great research on adding a second carabiner on your ATC. People were doing that thinking that it was going to be easier to pay that rope out, and they found that it's actually adds quite a bit of friction to it. So using that same concept, this, by adding the friction, basically cuts in half the amount of force that you will need to break, basically in half. So with that, you can take twice that load that it would normally take to break that. So been really happy with it. It's really easy to do. You'll notice on this one, because our gates are on the same side, which is completely cool, we do this quite a bit. No issues, but you'll notice that because the gates jam up, you'll kind of have an asymmetric, nonlinear gap in between there. So if your Adderall's kicking and you're turning OCD, like I occasionally do, you can actually put this one in the opposite way, in which you'll have basically a nice even gap between those. So this will run, flips over just like a normal Munter, adds a bunch of more friction on there for you for a two-person load, really easy to handle, kind of takes the place of the 1.5. On the same note with this, and we're going to switch this up and kind of show it in place of a rappel, you can actually do the same thing for your spine wraps. So we'll do spine wraps sometimes if we're, let's say, using webbing to bail out. Sometimes we'll do a spine wrap with lower diameter cord because it'll keep us from having to pass knots if we're tying ropes together using an EDK. So this will be our anchor, and now we're going to rig this as if we were going to go ahead and use it to rappel. So that being said, we're going to come in here, and how you rig this, it's kind of difficult. These are easy because it's the magnetron, but if you're using auto lock gates and things like this, trying to keep two gates open while you do it, so doing it one at a time makes life a little bit easier. So as you come in here, you can basically just wrap towards your anchor there, and I keep it at the top part of my carabiner there on this pear shape. And then I'll just come in and add my second right on in there. So as I come up there, I can just go ahead and let those loops roll out, capture them with my second carabiner, and then I'll move that right onto my spine so it's nice and in line. So I'll take up a little bit here so you can kind of see how this loads, and then this is how you would load. So this will add quite a bit of friction for you without having to add a bunch more turns and things like that. And if we're trying to pass a knot with this, the last thing we want to do is kind of add more than what we need to. And what you may find, and you need to do this based on your body type, is you actually may be able to take one of these off. Remember that on the capstan equation, right, with the friction and the amount of angles that we get is an exponential increase. So try it out, see how it works with your body weight, and go from there.